Welcome to VSB After the Bell. I'm your host, Gianna Chell. With deep gratitude and respect, we are honored to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Hamathquiam, Skohomish Ohomeom, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. The Vancouver School Board is among the most diverse school systems in Canada, with an annual enrollment of approximately 50,000 students from kindergarten to grade 12 and adult education students. If there's one topic that's always ringing in the minds of students, families, and teachers, it's digital devices in education. In early 2024, the provincial government mandated all schools to have restrictions on cell phones across the province. And in September of this year, VSB implemented its district-wide policy on digital devices, which meant starting this school year, personal digital devices must have been turned off or placed on silent during instructional time for secondary students, unless an educator has given permission, and at the elementary level, personal digital devices are restricted during the instructional day. You can read the full policy on our website under AP Administrative Procedure 350. While these restrictions are placed to safeguard students, we all know we live in a digital age where digital literacy is not only necessary for student success, but it can also be used to enhance education in the classroom when used appropriately, and ultimately help prepare students for the future. To discuss what responsible digital learning looks like, we're bringing in an expert in the field. Jesse Miller, founder of Mediated Reality, has been providing social media education in schools across the country for the better part of a decade. Jesse, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
For our listeners, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work you do in schools in regards to digital learning?
Yeah, so let's start with that better part of a decade. I have been presenting in BC schools for over 15 years. I have had the privilege of working in a number of capacities across our province in helping school districts develop curriculum, addressing response plans when incidents occur involving social media and mobile technology in schools. I've also had the distinct privilege of working with various levels of government in not only crafting response messaging, but proactive messaging to help support youth in BC schools, specifically around issues around cyberbullying and mental health as it applies to the use of technology. And uniquely, I've had the privilege actually of presenting in every school district in this province and working with the majority of independent schools to deliver digital citizenship, understandings of social and emotional literacies in the spaces that really kind of connect our kids to each other, and then helping design programs to really kind of get kids thinking about how they use the internet. And that has been a big chunk of my career.
Amazing. Well, we're so lucky to have you on the show today. What is digital learning? What is digital literacy?
Yeah, so digital learning kind of fits into a category where we just address that we use digital tools to engage learning, and whether that's through multimedia, whether it's through technology that kids bring from home or provided by the school, that's the avenue of exploration of content, and that can obviously be consumed in a variety of ways. Digital literacy goes more towards the idea of we have this great technology that we can use in a variety of ways, and to be fair, the majority of people use the technology we have for convenience as opposed to growing further than the technology can actually take us in our living, breathing world. But when we assess how individuals use these tools, literacy is a big component of our curriculum. And so digital literacy fits into the ability to navigate using a computer in the classroom, online learning platforms, and then also just measurement as well. We do have a number of great tools that can be used to assess student learning.
Just in the past decade, we've seen such a dramatic shift in how we use the internet, from the rise of social media to now AI. It's definitely changed how we operate in this digital landscape. Given these fast-paced changes, what are some of the key areas you focus on today when presenting in schools?
Yeah, so A couple notes there. One, social media for the better part of 20 years has really shaped how we kind of consume others' lives. And so whether it's our friends posting things or whether it's learning about the world that's happening around us, that idea of the citizen journalist has really kind of shaped our consumption of media. So in our connected world, we talk to kids about social media and the power in the space they have. But obviously, in a post-pandemic world, we have to keep in mind here that young people weathered the storm of the pandemic using technology that we sometimes give to pacify them. And so the majority of kids that learned from home during the pandemic had these really neat ways of using technology that really hadn't been tested. You know, the idea of being on Zoom or being on Microsoft Teams to facilitate a classroom. So when we think about where these tools have brought us, the convenience piece is kind of that big thing because we still had Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon to devour and keep ourselves occupied. But the majority of parents really did struggle having to set their kids up for online learning while having to pivot to work from home. And so post-pandemic, a lot of my content now really does lean into what would we have done during the pandemic without this technology? And the majority of adults can kind of lean in and go, okay, well, I remember going to Blockbuster Video. I remember making a mixtape off the radio. And in analog, having to leave your home kind of way, we're still very fresh in that space, but our children aren't because they are born into a world where this technology exists. They're born into a world where we took photos of them and put them on Facebook to show the world, oh, look, I have a kid and they're so special and they're so great. And here's all the things they're doing. But we didn't ask them for consent. We didn't seek their opinion of whether they wanted to be shared or not. And so now you have adults who are like, oh, the internet's bad, social media is horrible. And then we have these young people who are like, what different world do you live in where this technology is going away? So yes, we have built a society around the need of these technologies. We live in a convenience-based culture that demands it. And somehow in there, we have to let our kids go online, but be wary of predation, extortion, bullying, and at some point there, get a good night's sleep. It is an ever-changing place to talk about how kids navigate this. The best people to talk to, in my opinion, are kids themselves.
So what's your opinion on parents who do share their kids on their social media without their consent?
So it's digital consent. It's the most important conversation that we're not having with our children. When we ask our kids for consent, are you comfortable if I take a picture of you? Are you comfortable if I send this photo to family? Are you comfortable if I post this in our family group chat? Are you comfortable if I post this on my open social media where there's 3,000 followers and you know 10 of them? Mm-hmm. The construct of those questions gives your child the ability to say, here's how I feel. And as a parent, that is the most important conversation you're going to have. And in the next active parenting move is, I care about your feelings. And so in that space, we don't care about our kids' feelings. We care more about the affirmation that other people need to see something. So I try and tell parents, like, your kid's on Instagram and doing something great, but if it cost $1 a day, would you parent that more? If your child sent, 6,000 text messages a month, because the average teenager in Canada who's 16 sends and receives 6,000 text messages, if it cost you 10 cents for every message sent to receive and your phone bill was $600, would you limit how your child communicates?
Yes, 100%.
100%. So in that, when our kids are doing these things, we are part of the problem. We take photos without considering the money that goes into it because it doesn't anymore, right? But it used to cost something because the technology made us wait. So today, when parents say, we want our kids to be better, we're the ones with the lead. But asking our kids for empowerment in the sense of, are you comfortable? Do you feel okay with? Do you mind if? This idea of sharing our digital lives has to come with more than just the ease. And so in that space, if you hear a child say, I'm actually not comfortable being posted on your social media, why in the world as a parent would you not want to sit there and go, okay, let's talk about your feelings and I'm going to respect them?
This is a good reminder. We're always thinking about getting the parents' consent for their kids, but we should really be asking our children for their consent. That's often overlooked. You're absolutely right. Asking for your kids' consent before sharing their image or information online is a crucial step in modeling respect for their privacy and autonomy. It's not just about protecting them from potential risks online, but it's also about teaching them that they have a voice and a say in how they are represented in the digital world. It really highlights the importance of building healthy digital habits early on. Speaking of early habits, it brings up another big question many parents and educators grapple with. So in your expert opinion, when is the right age to introduce digital devices to kids?
So that's the best part about an expert opinions. You can put it out there, but then it changes with research and data. And you go, well, I was wrong then, but we'll see what it looks like now. I just want to be very clear. There is no really good age. It is actually about the resiliency of the child themselves. And unfortunately, what we're really diving into is not an age issue with the kids. It's engagement from the parent. So in a space where parental responsibility is about engaging your child, we are seeing a huge decline in parents wanting to participate in the spaces that their children occupy online. And those parents really think, oh, it's okay, it's just a game or it's just a way to keep them quiet. Their children aren't learning resiliency in spaces when it comes to co-participation or when it comes to patience or when it comes to understanding that participation as a whole is sometimes required in our everyday lives. And so in that space where we say, what's an appropriate age for screen time, we saw the Canadian Pediatric Association years ago say children 2 and under, absolutely no screen time whatsoever. But the thing is, there wasn't enough data. There wasn't enough data to show, like, what was the negative? Is it based on that child in the developing first 2 years needs to have that eye contact from parents, that engagement from parents, that mimicking of voice and sound? All those things can be measured in different ways when it comes to the engagement of a device, because the device itself could teach a child how to speak. The device could teach a child how to engage. But what does that mean for humanity as a whole? So to your very good question, but it needs a lot of moving parts to answer properly. The child needs to be engaged in a traditional way to learn how to use that technology in harmony with what we want them doing. So if you want your child raising their numeracy and literacy, yes, an iPad's a great tool, but you have to engage in the learning with your child to guide them in that space.
So what you're saying is that there is no hard and fast rule when it comes to screen time. Rather, it's about how the screen time is being used, that parents should be supervising and engaging with their child during screen time. Kind of like when your child is at the playground. Some parents may play with their children on the playground and others may be standing afar while they watch, or peripherally watching them while they chat with other parents. It's about the comfort level of the parent and how much support the child needs.
There's also that point of unsupervised can also mean vetted, right? Because there is content that parents can access and set up on devices so their children use it in an unsupervised manner, but the content has been vetted. So when parents say, oh, well, they're just watching YouTube. Okay, it's a wide open YouTube. There are lots of things the kid can find. But if you're actively choosing to find YouTube videos that might be good for your child's developmental stages, downloading it and hosting it on your device so that they can just access it through the hard drive, that's significantly better than just saying, well, they were unsupervised, because at some point you've at least taken time to watch the content, see what it is, assess as a family if it's appropriate, and then go from that point forward. So
do you recommend downloading the videos instead of using YouTube Kids?
It depends on the content. Like the reality of it is that in a family where you have 3 children in various ages, yeah, you're always going to be aware of how one kid is a little bit more aware of themes in media than the other child. And I mean, in my family, it's the same way. But when we conceptualize appropriateness, I mean, that's a really flexible word for parents sometimes. But the most important theme for me is, did you have any conversations about the things that you saw or heard in that movie that allowed you context to understand? And where parents fail in that space is not really understanding their kids do live in a Google world where anything can be searched. So yes, your kid may be exposed to media, but they don't necessarily understand the context or what might be inappropriate. What does it mean to have a media literacy conversation that helps your child understand the themes within something they've consumed and where it may be inappropriate to regurgitate that to their friend group or openly on the internet? And that's really a parent's responsibility to, ask questions like, what did you think about that movie? What did you think about that thing that was on YouTube? And so in that space where we want to protect younger children, parents may have to take a little bit of time, download some things so that they know what's there, as opposed to the surprise of, well, this was YouTube Kids. It's supposed to be okay. Just because it's supposed to be okay doesn't mean that your child's consuming content is going to be appropriate for your family.
Yeah. So this naturally leads to the next big question. Once kids do start using devices, how do we manage screen time? How much screen time should a kid get? What's your recommendation on a realistic way to maintain a healthy screen time balance, especially for those working parents?
How much screen time have you had today?
I don't know. I have to check my phone. Oh my gosh. Let's see.
So as you do that, let's start with this. We as adults, we start our day checking our phones. We check emails, we check texts, we get our kids fed, we get to where we need to be. But once we get to our desk, we've most likely checked our phone for a period of about 30 minutes. That is if we're going to a workplace. I spend anywhere between 6 to 12 hours a day with various forms of screen time, working in harmony with my day, because my setup here requires me to have 3 screens, but it's for work purpose. When I watch a show with my kids later on tonight, that'll be an hour of time while we're watching a television show. Maybe if we're watching a hockey game, maybe it's a bit more in there as well. I play video games with my son. We like to play Minecraft together. We explore things together. But again, it comes down to what is the task at hand. So what's your screen time so far?
As of 3 p.m. today, my phone shows that I have been on my phone for 4 hours and 15 minutes. I know it sounds bad, but I do a lot of work on my phone, so it's not that bad considering what I use it for.
For kids, if we measure screen time as for purpose or participation, any screen time that is co-participation where you have an adult kind of guiding with them, that's time well spent. If it's screen time for the purpose of family engagement, of FaceTime, talking to grandparents because we live in different cities, great, why not, right? It does come down to how do we choose to put our kids in front of screens and for what purpose.
Screen time management is definitely a key part of digital learning, but it's just one piece of a bigger puzzle. Alongside it, there are also some significant risks associated with digital learning that we need to be aware of. So what are some of the risks associated with digital learning, and what problems can arise from students and their families, as well as from an educator's perspective?
So what the internet does is it provides obviously a conduit for individuals who want to cause harm to get close without feeling like they're running higher risks. But the reality of it is that the more that young people are empowered to understand that good communication doesn't require them to share who they are, what their interests are, good communication doesn't require secrets, things like that. These are all just life skills that go into places that the internet now obviously can come directly into our home and affect us. But kids need to know those things before they get online, before they're able to communicate to unknown people. But the thing is, within education, when we add digital learning into the component, it can be hard because, again, go back to COVID. We learned that coming into 30 houses for a teacher to teach required, buy-in from the parents and making sure that we had a dedicated learning space and making sure that kids have the right technology. And so one of the biggest gaps there is, do we have good internet connections for kids to continue learning outside of the bricks and mortar classroom? And what does it mean for us to really invest in making sure that kids have great tools to continue their education outside of 8:30 to 3 o'clock? And then when we consider the tools that teachers need, how do we make sure that teachers can protect themselves in their personal lives and then their professional lives, be able to use tools that are effective in measuring not only student competencies and understandings of content, but also that the child isn't just using a tool to kind of keep themselves engaged because they want to just go back home and play video games. Like, I love when teachers use video games to teach. And then how do we get that idea, that excitement from the student who wants to go, play PlayStation or a Microsoft game into the classroom? Like, we can do it. We just need the tools to get there.
Okay, so you mentioned a little bit about safely using this digital platform, right? Can you give us some concrete examples of best safety practices and what are some things to avoid?
So with student learning, like any kid that's, let's say, grade 8 to grade 12 who's using a student-based account, we want them using emails that are vetted by school districts. Like that's kind of key. I'm a big believer in making sure that your learning stays within your learning hub. When we get to things like using like open source content. We want to make sure that the learning environment is safe and vetted. So there are great learning tools. And I'll give you one. You have kids, they're receiving questions from a survey. That idea of receiving survey-based questions, like, is it being sent to an email that's appropriate for the school, or is it being sent to a Gmail the student got to create? And then are we navigating, when students are kind of messing around the system, something that can be vetted to make sure that, anybody who's doing something anonymously can be held accountable. In the systems that we create that are cheap, it is easy for us to not have secure systems to communicate. And so unfortunately, some school districts rely on, kids bringing their own devices, but I would love to see not only district provided, but district overseen technology that really allows for the learning to happen 24 hours a day in the healthiest way possible. And so I think that we're at a stage where digital learning is going to continue moving us forward, but that weird balance of bring your own device, really, we got to work that out, because we're not at a stage where we can say the kids are obviously not bringing their technology to school. The bans are flexible based on school direction, but parents really need to kind of keep in mind that we have these great tools to move children's learning forward. What do we as parents have to do to contribute to that space in a positive way? Most often I hear kids say, phones are banned, but my parents are the ones texting me most often, right? It's a weird balance of like, we want kids to learn how to regulate, but we as parents, our anxieties kind of go through their devices too. So finding that balance is key. And at the same time, the problems also come down to, do parents really have the learning tools themselves to understand what their kids are doing? I'll just give an example. My sister, my daughter's in grade 11, and for her, she's learning physics at a grade 11 level, and for me, I'm totally lost. I'm gone. But do I have the ability to use the internet to help myself get there? Of course, but it just requires me taking some time to see the learning tools my daughter is using and literally carving that time out so that when she is home and asking for help, I'm prepared to meet her in a space where I feel comfortable.
What about tips for elementary students? Anything in particular you want to advise parents on?
Yeah, and so in that space of oversharing, we have to be really careful on how we put our full names on the internet, how we highlight the cities that we live in. You can make it generic, but you don't want to make it so specific that it becomes a threat to safety. So you can say, I live in Vancouver, but if you're highlighting, I live in Kitsilano at 4th and then you're kind of narrowing down the street, that's a too much information piece. At the same time, also social sharing. Parents do the, first day of school pictures of dropping their child off as they walk up. If the school's in the background, you're identifying the school without even kind of highlighting, the need to put that out there. Is it for yourself, or is it because you want other people to know? Some parents don't care about that. They have open social media channels, and they're more than happy to put their children on the internet without asking their children for consent. And so to that space of mitigating the risks, it is as simple as making sure the background doesn't have anything identifiable, making sure that we're not telling strangers who we are, where we live, and what we like to do for fun. And most importantly, when we are in these communities and we're participating online, when somebody sends a message and says, well, don't tell an adult this, or we should keep this between us, those are people that we shouldn't be talking to in the first place.
So then how can families support their children's education in this digital age? Can you give some specific tools or strategies?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you want to look at what the school is suggesting based on the grade level. You also want to look clearly at what a teacher is communicating about how education is taking place in the school day using technologies of a variety of sorts. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, there was a gym teacher who was noticing all the kids doing Fortnite dances, and they all love doing the Fortnite dances. But he was watching his students, and he's like, they're not really dancing well. So they use green screen technology to record themselves dancing and measured the human kinetics that they were producing, and body motion, body placement, and then over 30 days as part of gym, worked on dance moves. Then they recorded themselves again 30 days later, and they were able to superimpose and see how they improved not only their body structure, their height, their stance, where they were moving, and in contrast, how they became better performers, right? The teacher met curriculum. The teacher improved kids want to participate using something that was cool, and using the technology piece really kind of guided it. But here's the thing that I want to keep in mind. Parents saw class learns Fortnite dances, and automatically thought it was negative because of the negative connotations of the video game, as opposed to taking something that was culturally relevant, that was engaging the young people. And even though some of the kids didn't play video games, they learned how to move their bodies. So within that space, parents need to really look at what their educators are attempting to do with technology, and whether it's participating in a Kahoot where they answer questions and measure responses, or whether it's using an app to really kind of move forward in the sense of their learning supports. Ask educators what tools they want to introduce. And that's K through 12. I mean, if you have a K through 7 teacher, you can really work on them one-on-one. But if it's each teacher for each course that your 8 through 12 student is taking, that obviously requires a bit more parental communication to the educators themselves.
So really, I'm learning here, digital learning is a balance. Students need to understand how to use digital tools to be set up for success, but rules must also be put in place for student safety. Having these types of conversations around digital literacy and online learning safety, it's really essential. So thank you so much, Jesse, for sharing your expertise with us today. If listeners want to learn more about digital literacy, where can they go to find you?
Well, here's not just to find me. I'm pretty searchable at mediatedreality.com. But in Canada, we have some great resources for parents. Mediasmarts.ca will give parents a very good understanding of some of the issues and themes that kids face when it comes to being online in Canada. Commonsense.org, a lot of media resources within that space too. Just the idea of like, hey, there's a movie. I want to know what parents' perceptions of this is. There's a video game. I want to know what kids' perceptions are. You get that really neat balance within that space. Just as a note, being cyber safe online doesn't necessarily come with a how-to and it being perfect, but at the RCMP website and correspondingly the Vancouver Police website, a number of provincial and federal resources are available. You just kind of have to click through. And then here in British Columbia, just one of my most favorite things to reference is the race strategy. If parents just go to Google and type in Erase BC, they will land on a wonderful resource that's put together by the provincial government, and it not only has resources for issues around online bullying and student harassment, but issues for mental health, assessing concerns with safety, communication safety, and then there's also the portal where parents or kids themselves can report concerns anonymously, and those concerns go directly to a school administrator. Great resource. More parents need to know about it. More kids need to use it. Erase BC.
Today's conversation really underscores some key takeaways about navigating the digital world with kids. First and foremost for me is getting consent from my kid before posting their photos online. It's a vital step in respecting their privacy and teaching them about autonomy from an early age. It's really a simple action that can make a profound impact on how they view their own boundaries in the digital space. A second takeaway is when it comes to screen time, it's not inherently bad. It's all about the approach by engaging with your child and treating screen time as an opportunity to connect rather than just a solitary activity. It becomes another way to bond, learn, and grow together. Thanks for joining us today as we speak about the importance of digital learning and online safety.
Thank you, Gina.
We'll catch up with you next time after the bell. Follow us on Instagram at VSB39 to make sure you don't miss when the next episode drops. Or subscribe to VSB After the Bell on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Special thanks to music teacher Mr. Bonnell and the Nightingale Elementary students for the original theme songs.